Travis Hunter is a Jaguar. Omarion Hampton is a Charger. Jaxson Dart is a Giant. All the winners and losers of the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft with Pat Kerrane. Let's learn something.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King Summer.
All right, Kerrane. We had what seemed like was going to be a legendary draft night when the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up from 5 to 2. Then it was rumored that the Browns were going to trade back again. The Bears reportedly, to the extent that Ashton Jeanty was actually favored to go at pick 5 and favored to go to the Bears in the betting markets as the draft happened. Got to be honest, after the Hunter fireworks, it more or less proceeded as expected. Shedeur Sanders does not go in round 1. Jalen Milroe does not go in round 1. As far as fantasy football is concerned, honestly, I think it went about as expected. I think the only thing that was like chalk that didn't happen was the Broncos not taking running back. I think everything else was basically as we expected.
Yeah, the Broncos passing on a running back was strange. And then the Bucks taking Egbuka, which we'll get to. That was a genuine shock. I mean, the Jags trading up. Yeah, that was a big one. But yeah, Giants trading back in was expected. And there was reports that Daboll really preferred Dart and that maybe the front office preferred Shedeur. But obviously, either that wasn't true about the front office or Daboll won that argument. Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Hampton still go. It was nice. Honestly, it was nice to see Egbuka in the first round. I still am happy he was a first-round wide receiver. That's great. Golden still goes in the first round. Dallas not taking Golden was interesting.
Feels like an all-time smokescreen. Dallas is one of those teams that always builds through the draft, and they just lost probably a Hall of Fame lineman in Zach Martin, and connecting the dots A to B, I think pretty easy to see why that happened.
Sure.
So we got the answer to Travis Hunter. I mean, I don't think it is ambiguous anymore. Liam Cohen said we view him primarily as an offensive player. More importantly than that, you just would not trade that much in excess, even for the best corner in football. Like, let's say they thought Travis Hunter was actually the greatest cornerback prospect of all time, right? You're not trading a future first. You're not giving up, pick 36 in addition. There's just no chance. At best, they view him as a two-way player, but I think pretty clearly the Jaguars view Travis Hunter as a wide receiver first.
Yeah, I think pretty clearly they view him as a two-way player. I don't think I don't think you can excuse this trade unless he's a two-way player.
You don't give up all of that unless you think he can be both. In fact, our friend Ben Gretsch wrote a great article on his Substack yesterday, pretty much highlighting why it makes sense to view him this way from a salary perspective, both for why the Jaguars would view him this way and why Hunter himself would be like, well, if I can be a B wide receiver and a B corner, that actually probably is an easier path to earning a lot of money than just becoming an A wide receiver. It's for him. For Travis Hunter, probably easier to be a B player on both sides than a Jamar Chase level player on offense.
I mean, yeah, but the thing, depending on how much he plays, I think it comes down to how much he can play, like what percentage of snaps that could end up limiting him. He's so talented. He's such a good route runner. Yeah, I mean, Matt Harmon was effusive in his praise of the route running. And then you see that like he was drawing targets really, really well in the shallow area. It's like the thing too about his college production is that it's not as strong as we would expect for this draft capital.
But you can totally excuse it.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't game planning every week. Imagine if you took like Malik Neighbors and was like, you're not allowed to game plan with the offense all week. Like, would that have hurt his production?
And
it would have. It would have hurt his production and efficiency.
He was much less of a wide receiver at Jackson State. I believe the stat from Gretch's article was he played 580 snaps on defense for Jackson State and only like 100 odd snaps on offense.
And that was actually his most efficient season by yards per route run.
Well, it would make if you don't run any routes.
You didn't run any routes. Yeah, yards per team attempt, it's pretty bad. But yards per route run, that's actually his most efficient season. So, he was flashing what he then later became. But I think that's an important detail of like he actually kind of came from the defensive side a little bit as far as
Schefter's tweet said he's a more natural defensive player, and then that was before the press conference, and then Liam Cohen said we view him as a wide receiver first. But I will land here. I think Hunter is probably a 5th round pick, 4 or 5 turn style pick in Best Ball Mania. I think he's the 1.02 in rookie drafts. And I expect him to run about 70% of the routes on offense. And I expect him to be a situational defensive player, probably maxing out at 50% of the snaps on defense. But my base expectation would be less than that. My base expectation is like 15 to 20 snaps a game on defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to have much confidence on what happens on defense. I do agree with you on offense that he'll be kind of around the 70% route participation range, maybe lower snap share, but
for sure lower snap share. Yeah.
Yeah. But
how many PFF run blocking snaps year one for Travis Hunter? Like 7?
I really hope not many. Like, please don't do that to him.
Yeah.
So, they have Gabe Davis for that. Gabe Davis is going to be your tell. When he's on the field, he's blocking. So, I mean, the route participation at 70%. But, Ben last night was making what I thought was a really sharp point that, like, we should expect volatility throughout the season and kind of some ebbing and flowing as
maybe
they try
even
to
week
figure
to
this
week.
out.
Maybe
week to week, game plan.
Brian Thomas Jr. sprained his ankle. So Hunter, we're gonna have you play. And I don't know the name of any Jacksonville Jaguars cornerbacks, but top corner gets injured. We're scaling you back on offense this week, scaling you up on defense this week.
I do a weekly preview article, and I am not looking forward to parsing the route participation for Travis Hunter and then predicting the next week. Like, I think it's going to be difficult,
right,
to figure out, and probably have to focus on news and we got to get one of the beats, breaking what the game plan is that week for Travis Hunter, because it will be kind of volatile as they figure out. I mean, I'm sure they're not. How could they be 100% sure what?
How could they know?
They've got to feel it out. So, that's going to be tricky. However, I do feel very confident that his targets per route run is going to be astronomical. He can get open. He gets open short, so he's going to be able, like, he gets open quickly. It's the type of thing where if you want to feed this guy targets, it's actually pretty easy, and not just
going to get a bunch of
screens, like
he's,
real targets.
He's going to get a bunch of those, but he's going to be running a lot of hitches, a lot of slants. I mean, and like, obviously, I think we all sort of think he can do it. He had not a ton of all green route charts on.
Yeah,
I think Roma Dunze was the only one last year with the all green.
I'm gonna say a name that's gonna, I think, make people mad, but I mean it in an actual bullish way for the specific point of a high targets per route run. But Kadarius Toney is someone I would invoke as, when he was with the Giants and he was kind of working his way onto the field, his targets per route run was actually insane. And it's because they were like, we can't trust this guy to be out there all the time. When he's out there, we're going to make sure to involve him in the offense, and he gets open on shallow routes. So, we're going to, I think now Travis Hunter is not going to be on the field in a true full-time role for different reasons.
Right.
It's not because he can't do it. It's because he's also playing cornerback. But there are players where you're like, this is like crazy, and it is actually unsustainable as well. We wouldn't see that level of target per route run on 90% route participation. He'd just kind of be eating some more empty routes. But I mean, he's going to be a huge priority for them when he's on the field. And we have seen other guys just get fed targets when on the field in their rookie seasons. Obviously in different situations because no one has ever been in this situation.
Well, that's actually a good comp. I mean, Tony, unable to be on the field because he's a jerk who had no interest in learning. But like Travis Hunter is like a nerd. Like he had a big cover story for Sports Illustrated, and he was like, "Yeah, I go to practice, I go to class, sometimes I go fishing, and then I go back to my room."
Yeah.
That's
what he told
he
Stefanski. Stefanski was like, "Dude, there's only so many hours in the day," and he's like, "I'm a fisherman, man. I wake up at 5 all the time." Davis, you must love that. You're like, this guy's getting so much REM.
Oh, Travis Hunter he's locked in. Yeah, dude. He eats his Brazil nuts to get his selenium. He's locked in. All right, let's move now.
Kadarius Toney had a 27% targets per route run as a rookie.
Yeah.
That's a level I think we could be at where he's, maybe 70% route participation, but he could easily be 25 plus % targets per route run.
He'll be top 12 in the NFL in targets per route run, I think.
Yeah. And Dwayne McBride last night said in his early projections he was at 21%.
Dwayne McBride is the old Minnesota Vikings.
I called him Dwayne McBride.
Practice squad running back.
I didn't get much sleep and I drank last night. Dwayne McFarland, not Dwayne McBride. He said that he had him at 21%, which is like a totally reasonable number for, a talented rookie receiver. I just think that that's the part where that's where the ceiling comes in, is that like, I don't expect something reasonable for Travis Hunter this year. I expect something strange as far as the targets per route run for him, because this situation is strange and his ability to play both ways is very unusual.
Yep. And you see it in the comps. The comps are all elite.
Pull up Dwayne McBride's comps. Let's check him.
Might be some interesting names on there. He was a good size score guy. All right. Let's move now to Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. I liked him a little bit more of a prospect than you did. Sneaky signing by the Titans, by the way, adding Tyler Lockett at like literally at midnight the night before the NFL draft. I think Tyler Lockett is like a huge upgrade on Van Jefferson or whatever kind of flotsam third wide receiver they were going to float. Kerrane and I are recording this the morning before round 2, so we don't know if Kyle Williams or Jaden Higgins or Jalen Noel is going to be a Titan. I think our expectation would kind of be that he is. I am reasonably excited about what a Cam Ward offense could look like, Kerrane, with the Tennessee Titans. We liked the Callahan hire. We thought like this guy good pedigree. We kind of liked the idea of like, oh, Ridley, and you get Hopkins, and you just find out if Will Levis is the guy. And then we learned very much Will Levis is not the guy, but Cam Ward might be the guy.
Yeah, I mean they were productive with Jake Browning, so
yeah,
I think we can have my thing. So okay, I was not high on Cam Ward as like a prospect from a hit rate perspective, right? But I am bullish on his ceiling, which I think everyone kind of is. I haven't really heard anyone say this guy doesn't have a ceiling.
Well, because he's like accurate. He maneuvers well in the pocket. You could see here all of his PFF grades are up, like pretty good. Pressure to sack ratio, like was not a screen merchant, right? So like that's always something you have.
He got better every year.
Got better. He was a 0-star recruit, right?
The thing about him, so he's on the. So weirdly enough, Dane Brugler has actually like comped him to Kyler Murray, which I think is a strange one because he doesn't run like that at all. But he does run a little around the goal line.
He could though, I think.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. He didn't really at all. I mean, I don't know. That's tough to project, but he's someone where you have the career arc that's similar to Murray. you know, a little different, but it's the final season that really solidifies him as the number one pick. The difference with Ward is that final season just was not nearly as good as Murray's. Or like Burrow's. Burrow would be another guy, fifth-year guy, has the insane final season.
Well,
and goes number one.
How do we feel about that, knowing that Xavier Restrepo stinks
Yeah.
and Elijah Arroyo, maybe all of that stuff is smoke, and Damian Martinez is going to be like a 5th round pick, and like
Yeah.
you know what's funny is we'll
Fair.
maybe kind of learn a lot about Cam Ward based on how Florida or Miami does this upcoming year. Like, what if Miami's just terrible with that? And they were bad before.
They probably will be.
Miami was really bad before Cam Ward got there. And
Yeah.
Washington State.
And the defense wasn't good last year but I think that the thing that's sort of concerning, the bull case is like this guy got better every year. He does a lot of cool stuff. You know, Nate Tice has talked a lot about how he has like a rhythm to his play. It's just like an unconventional rhythm, and you can kind of see him.
Can totally
like he wasn't like one of these guys who's been groomed from like a really young age to be like the next guy going all to the quarterback camps and everything. Like, you know, he was like a dual threat guy, right? And then he transfers to 2 different schools
at Washington State. Yeah, he ran more at Washington State than he did at Florida or at Miami.
So what Tice has talked about is like how he does things that you don't expect, but then when you think about like what he did, you're like, that's actually a really smart play like that, or like for him to see that is awesome. So, there's things in the profile that make me nervous as far as hit rate, but there's a lot to like as far as what he could turn into as a guy who's effectively passing downfield, scoring a little bit with his legs, and now with Brian Callahan maybe being in a high volume passing offense, he might be the type of guy that you can load up with passing attempts. So I do not want to be fading Cam Ward, even though I am worried about what the hit rate might be. And frankly, writing him up, even some of like the bus, I'm like, he's kind of Carson Wentz-y. Is that bad or good? Right? Like, it's ultimately, as we sit here today, sounds really bad. But Carson Wentz was someone we were talking about as an MVP candidate.
Totally take that. Yeah. You totally take that. You know what he kind of reminds me of is he kind of reminds me of guys who I think would have been hits in today's NFL, but were viewed as like legitimately awful players in their day. Josh Freeman, do you remember him? He went to K-State. He was a Buccaneer. EJ Manuel, like these guys who were mobile but not runners, accurate but kind of struggled like through their progressions and stuff a little bit. I think Ward is a little bit better at that. Also, there's this kind of unnerving thing when you watch Cam Ward play. It actually seems sometimes like he's not even trying. Like he would just sit in the pocket.
Yeah, it's lackadaisical. It's like he's just kind of like chilling, and it takes a long time. And you're like,
and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's
don't
concerning.
Know. Yeah,
but I have heard it spun good. Of like, this dude's super calm in the pocket. I'm like, yeah, I mean, maybe too calm. Like he looks like he's zonked.
Because you're not going to be able to do that in the NFL. What I need to know is Cam Ward going to have the headset? Is Cam Ward going to have the VR headset that Jaden Daniels did? Is he going to have the VR headset that what's his name? That JJ McCarthy has been using? Ultimately, I will say if he remains like the quarterback, like if he's going after Matt Stafford in best ball, I will just have I'll have a huge position there. Like the number
how did you handle him in the big board?
I liked him, but I took Dart and Milrow way more because they were cheaper, and both of them have rushing upside that Ward does not have, I think.
So he ended up. I have 18% of Ward, but he's tied with Purdy as my 3rd highest drafted quarterback. Drake May, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Cam Ward.
Playing the hits.
Yeah, playing the hits, baby. But I raised him a little bit on on this, which maybe it should have already been baked in, but I was just kind of thinking through, what the range is kind of nice here for year one. We're getting starts. I think in best ball, so much of what you're paying for is just starts. Just give me all the starts, please.
And the cheaper the cost, the more a start is valuable.
Yeah. So we get that. We get all the starts, and you are actually in an offense where we could see, some upside with the play calling, like the offensive design, to your point on Callahan. We were at one point excited about him, and they're gonna draw up some screens and some interesting stuff for him to do beyond just putting it all on his shoulders. Will Levis probably masked this offensive design a bit because he's so bad, but Mason Rudolph looked very functional in this offense.
Yeah, he did.
That says something. So, yeah, I mean, Cam Ward, I have at 138 in like the non ADP. He comes out with what his ADP ended in the big board. He comes out at 139 in the leg up ranks after I adjusted. So I expect to continue targeting him unless he rises significantly.
Yeah. I think a guy.
What about Dynasty?
Dynasty, I think I probably won't end up with a ton of him because I'm going to have Tet ranked ahead of him in my Dynasty stuff. And
me too.
I expect that most Superflex drafters will prefer Ward to Tet. Let's do
I agree.
Mr. Jaxson Dart. Ends up being a first-round pick. Joe Shane's son posts on Instagram Jaxson Dart highlights, then makes his account private, then deletes his account. His account was followed by Jaxson Dart. And it turns out Jaxson Dart is, in fact, a New York Football Giant. Jameis Winston is the quarterback 3. Russell Wilson is the quarterback 1/2. Brian Daboll says Russell Wilson in the spring is going to be treated as our starter. I mean, he's coaching for his job, Daboll is, which I think means that Russ is going to get a fairly long leash. But as you and I have noted with Shope, that leash gets so short so quick. The rookies just play now.
If this was Daboll and Shane's first season with the Giants, I think there'd be a real chance that Dart would sit most of the year, like almost the entire year. Like not until they were officially eliminated from the playoffs to even, get Dart out there. Because Dart is the type of guy where you would think he could really benefit from sitting for a year. He's kind of more of the bet on traits and talent. But he's coming from this really, really good system, and there's like some worries about how he's going to be able to operate in NFL offense. So giving him time to learn is pretty beneficial. But obviously, with the job security here, like they lose their 4th game, Dart's in. They lose maybe their 3rd game, Dart's in. I just think they don't have the luxury.
Start 1-4 and Daboll gets fired, Dart's in.
Well, that's actually a concern with Dart. Like to me, a big part of the appeal is Daboll. So
yeah, because it was reported that he was Daboll's guy.
He's Daboll's guy. Daboll won. Well, I don't know this, but the report was that it was the front office like Shador and Daboll like Dart. So the narrative that I'm believing is that, not only is he Daboll's guy, but Daboll won out in an organizational battle to be able to coach his guy. So he's not going to go out without coaching his guy. He's gonna put Dart out there and ask him to save his job potentially. So maybe by the 3rd or 4th loss, Dart's going out there. I mean, hell, it could be.
I wouldn't be that surprised if he just started week 1 either. I would make it the dog, but I wouldn't be mega surprised.
I really wouldn't. Like Russ is washed. He's washed.
Yeah, Russ could not do it. Russ hasn't really been able to do it for a long. I mean, look at the succession of quarterbacks who have started games over Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Jarrett Stidham. right? Like he just has 3 organizations in a row have moved on from him in each of the last 3 years. It's over. First, he got 1 year, $10 million. He got Joe Flacco money, you know.
Right.
And Jameis is just not a threat.
No, Jameis is not a threat. Jameis is the situations where Jameis is putting up points. Dart has looked really bad, and Daboll has been fired.
And Russell Wilson is on a different team.
Russell Wilson, yeah, that ended weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah,
and it's like whoever their OC is, whoever their quarterbacks coach is that gets promoted or whatever is like just letting Jameis chuck it to close a lost season.
Yeah, 100%. Dynasty, I will have bags and bags of him because I expect he will be available there at the 112, 2-1, and I like him.
Do you think he is?
Yeah, because Warren and Loveland will go ahead.
Jacob said he was going to have him ahead of Warren now.
Well, Jacob might have him there, but the market is not going to have him there. We've seen this story a million times. Prospect that the market is not super sure on goes to an uncertain landing spot where they're not starting week 1. This is no different than Herbert. This is no different than, actually,
Herbert was mid though. Herbert was in like the 1-0 because I drafted Herbert. This used to be like my whole thing in Superflex.
Dude, this is Daniel Jones again. This is Daniel Jones again.
Yeah, who I drafted. I drafted Daniel Jones. I drafted Justin Herbert. Like I love drafting these guys. I drafted Zach Wilson. Okay, I'm not. This isn't a brag. This is just me sharing a strategy.
One of these running backs that we don't know where they're at yet because we're recording this before round 2. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson. One of these guys is going to nut out a landing spot in round 2. Cowboys, Broncos, wherever, and that guy's going to jump. Jaxson Dart as well.
I agree. I think there was a Caleb, someone like that jumps him, but I still think he's. Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe he's kind of in the. I don't know. Are people going to take Matthew Golden over him?
Well, the call might be coming from inside the house.
I'm going to take Dart over Golden.
I'd have to look myself in the eye, and really think, because I do really like Golden, and he's the first wide receiver that the Packers have taken in the first round since like World War II or whatever. So I do think
maybe they don't know how to do it. Maybe they've forgotten what to look for.
There's a lot of organizational impetus there for him to succeed. In fact, you know what? Let's just go there right now. Let's do Matthew Golden. The reception perception, I think, a little bit different than people would have imagined. I think what people thought of Matthew Golden is this guy just stinks. It's speed only. This is Darius Hayward-Bay. This is Henry Ruggs, whatever.
That's actually... So my journey was different than that. I thought he was going to crush in reception perception because...
Interesting.
Yeah. No, because okay, so I was like getting my head around this class, and there's like this tier. The original tiers were, Hunter was his own thing, and then it's like Tet or T-Mac. We're going T-Mac now. T-Mac, Burden.
I prefer Tet offensive.
I like Tet offensive too, but
Tet offensive is really good.
T-Mac. So T-Mac and Burden were kind of your clear-cut wide receiver 1 and 2. Then you had Egbuka. And then there's like this tier break, and you go to the other guys, and the other guys were led by Trey Harris, and then Matthew Golden declares, and he's kind of, it's like, oh, is he in the Trey Harris group? And then the film guys come in and are basically like, no, he's a first round type of guy because of his ability to get open downfield.
He just gets open, dude.
He gets open. So it wasn't the original Matthew Golden steam was coming from the film guys who, he went first rounds and he didn't have any production. So obviously the film is driving this.
And went to a team that is pretty stringent about production profiles on both sides of the ball, the Packers.
Well, not that stringent, I guess. There's like really not much here. But he's like a bet on on film. I mean, I think more than the athleticism. The athleticism to me was like cover to bet on the film. It wasn't about the athleticism. No one thinks he's, and I think that's partly why, like, oh, is he actually a 4.39 guy, not a 4.29 guy? I don't think that matters
I don't
because
think
he's
it matters
not a
either.
burner. He's
Yeah.
not. He's not like a. What was his chart there with the reception perception? Can you pull that back up?
He was okay on 9 routes, 63%.
He's okay. Okay,
Good
but
on
that's not like
throws.
what he. That wasn't like his bread and butter.
No.
Maybe that's
No,
how
that
the
is
Packers
more
plan to
that is
use him. I don't know.
more Bond. I mean, I think that is actually how the Packers plan on using him because you look at
Well,
their offense. The guy they're replacing is Watson.
Watson, yeah.
They've
And
got
then it's probably just a
Dubs.
really bad pick. If he's your new Watson, then
Well,
it's just
that's
bad.
probably a little bit of lack of imagination on our parts as analysts of not even fantasy football, but just football, being like pattern matching, be like, this guy has to be this guy. Like, think about all the guys who LaFleur's mentor, Kyle Shanahan, has used as his top wide receiver, right? He's had Andre Johnson. He's had Julio Jones. Then it was Deebo Samuel. Then it was George Kittle. Then it was Brandon Ayuk, right? Sometimes Shanahan doesn't throw the ball to running backs at all.
Right.
And then sometimes it's Christian McCaffrey. Like, I gained so much respect for the Green Bay offensive coaching staff when they won those 2 games with Malik Willis. I was just like, I think we have to view them as a smart staff, and I view them as a smart front office. My question. Go ahead.
I would view him more as. I think he's like more similar to a Zay Flowers, than a Christian Watson, or maybe he's like a Jahan Dotson. Last night I was struggling for comps that people weren't.
What about a Lad McConkey? No college production, banged up in college, good athleticism.
The yards per route run, we had that with McConkey. We had the flashes.
16% career.
Justin Hunter.
16% career market share for Lad, 19% for Golden, 16% touchdowns for Lad, 24% for Golden. Final season, Golden way better. Golden actually weighed more than Lad at the combine. And you might say, but Davis, look at all the guys that Lad played with. And I would say, look at all the guys that Golden played with, right? I guess not at Houston, but
not at Houston.
But at Texas,
and it was just Bond at Texas.
Well, you're about to. You don't watch college football, so there's you're gonna learn a name. Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore are going to be NFL guys, and they were true freshmen. And the running backs, right? And Blue and Wisner and Gunnar Helm was going to get drafted. And also, as we maybe have not talked about enough, Quinn Ewers might just be so diabolically bad that like there's just actually not anything for us to learn.
Right.
That it's just like it's like trying to evaluate that the 2022 Rutgers team that had 3 NFL offensive players but averaged like 3.7 yards per play. That was the one that Pacheco, Bo Melton, and one other.
This is a big time program. I mean, this is like they actually had some success.
Well, that's why. That's how bad I'm saying Quinn Ewers might be. Is I'm comparing Quinn Ewers to the impact of the 2022 Rutgers team that was like the worst offense in FBS football. That's Quinn Ewers.
That's Quinn Ewers. I mean, we weren't sure if Xavier Worthy was good. It's he's definitely had an impact, a negative impact.
We weren't sure if Jatavian Sanders was any good. We weren't sure if Jordan Whittington was any good. Every player from the 2023 Texas Longhorns started an NFL game.
Here's what I'll say on Golden. To me, here's the comp that I was making last night from a stylistic standpoint was like, you're hoping he's a Jordan Addison as a complementary guy to a better player. But everyone pushed back on that because Addison was just a crazy better prospect. What about if we compare him to Jahan Dotson, who none of us really liked as a prospect? Jahan Dotson was a 4-year guy and, was kind of a complimentary player to McLaurin and then washes out of the team entirely. He did have 10.7 PPR points per game as a rookie in 12 games. He scored 7 touchdowns in that year. I think he strikes me. Golden has that kind of like Kendall Wright, Michael Floyd sort of vibe to me a little bit, where you could.
Dude,
And I
totally
said this about
Michael Floyd.
Yeah, I said this about Zay Flowers a little bit too. I think that Flowers is going to outperform this, but there's a little bit of that. Like, I bet he does something on his rookie deal at some point.
Nelson Aguilar
is a really good one. That's a really good one. Yeah,
John Ross. You know what? He's just
John
Ross, dude. He's
John
just
Ross.
John Ross.
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar is a great one because he's another guy who's pretty athletic, but not really like a true burner. But maybe he runs a lot of 9 routes, but it's not like he's not elite at it. But yeah, Ross had one season where he put up 12, only 8 games, but he put up 12 PPR points a game in his 3rd year. So I bet you that we get like a usable season from Golden. And it's just like when that comes, is if it's in his rookie season, you actually will make a profit on him in Dynasty. And I think he's worth taking some stabs on in best ball if he doesn't like he should fall a little bit from where he was going, because the landing spots we were hoping for were better.
He won't though.
Yeah, then I probably won't have much. I was forcing myself to take him pre-draft because I was very confident he's going to be a 1st round pick, and I don't love the profile. So it's just like, set yourself up to fade him if you need to fade him. But yeah, I mean, he's like a little bit of a scary full fade for me, because some of these profiles that like long-term have busted have been actually pretty solid picks.
Kelvin Benjamin, like huge.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin
had like a crazy volume season his rookie year.
My whole point boils down to he went in the 1st round. Like, there's only so much we should discount that from, especially from a best ball perspective. I'm more willing to bet against him in Dynasty. Like, I would rather take a 1st round quarterback than Golden. Like, I don't really see any way that I don't have Jaxson Dart ranked ahead of Matthew Golden in Dynasty.
I've got an all-timer here. No one that you'll win a bar bet on this. Kelvin Benjamin, his rookie year, 145 targets, 73 receptions, 1,008 yards, 9 touchdowns. I mean,
and that was it, because he tore his ACL.
That was it. That was it, dude. He got to 3,000 career yards. That was it. That was the end of him as a functional NFL player.
He tore his ACL in 2015 preseason, so he never played that year. And then he came back, and now he was an old, oversized wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it turned out that, coming off an ACL tear, that was it. Like, it was like it's like when a 28-year-old guy tears his ACL and is never the same, except he was in his 2nd year.
That's my like, if you are listening or watching at home and you think Matthew Golden sucks, that's the bull case. Like, I think Matthew Golden sucks. I think he's got nothing, whatever. That's the bull case, is the Packers are just kind of in a spot where they need him. And functionally, this is really bad for Wicks, because you can only have one guy who's fast but shitty, who can get open on the field at a time. It's really not great. It's not great for Dubs either.
I don't know if it hurts Dubs that much. I lowered Dubs just for like, it hurts his ceiling. It's harder to see him like kind of emerging down the stretch as like their go-to guy. And, he had some weird spike weeks last year that are less likely to repeat now. But as far as like him running routes, I mean, Dubs is their X.
Yeah.
I don't think Golden's not an X. He's like, isn't he more of a flanker? I know he plays outside, but I guess I think he's the Watson replacement.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He could very easily be the Jaden Reed replacement. That's true as well. They just do the Debo Reed lateral stuff with Golden. Pretty easy.
It doesn't help Reed.
No.
It does not help Reed. Where do you think? No. Where would you have Reed now? Let me pull him up.
I haven't started working on my rankings yet. I'm gonna wait till Sunday to do it. But I already had Reed way below market.
That was smart.
I'm going to move. I think I'm going to move Reed to something like wide receiver 45, 46. So down, I mean, that's 20 spots probably.
Yeah, I've got him right now.
A round 1 wide receiver is such an indictment on your wide receiver room.
Yeah, I have him wide receiver 42 right now, but I think I'm going to lower him a little bit more. And that's actually having lowered him a bit last night, but
all right,
the floor is now really low.
Let's move to a clear win and a spot I was surprised actually that Tet McMillan win at 8. I kind of fell for the psyop train.
I fell for the psyop
that he was going to fall, that the NFL was kind of over this body type, that whatever.
Dude, it was a good op. It was a well executed op.
It was well executed. Now, something that you and I know very well is it only takes one, right? You know,
but it wasn't just one. The Cowboys
the
wanted
reporting
him,
was other people wanted him. Yeah,
Cowboys and Rams both wanted this guy.
Both wanted him,
and he goes top 10. Like, great op, NFL. Really had me worried that you weren't into him.
Tet McMillan is the Charizard of Xavier Leggett's, and Mingo and Terrace Marshall are the Charmanders of this type of player. And finally, after 4 consecutive drafts and like 3 different front offices, the Panthers have finally gotten their big-bodied boundary wide receiver who, I mean, he's definitely better than Leggett, right?
Well, Leggett's like a different kind of guy.
Different style of player, yes.
Yeah, I saw a clip. Tice last night was saying he thought this was good for Leggett. Now, that's the type of thing that happens, the real life versus fantasy discussion is like, is this good for Leggett for our purposes? Like, no.
It's not good. It's not good for our purposes, but it probably allows him to like finish his rookie contract as a starter.
Exactly. It's good for his ability to do some stuff that the coaches are happy with.
It's good for his ability to get a Christian Kirk style contract when he's done with the Panthers.
Yeah. So, but and the reason that is that like he's good on kind of these underneath stuff, you know, these like shallow crossing routes and stuff where you get him with the ball in his hands. And then he's like a yak guy, but semi-gadgety in that way, where Tet McMillan is actually a yak guy too, but after he earns a target, you know, on a traditional route downfield, more in the intermediate area than deep, but I think
he can do both. I mean, look at his game logs here. He's got a 4.4, he's got an 11, he's got a 16, he's got 21% out of the slot, he's got 5.1 yak per reception, 2.87 yards per route run, and these are actually all worse numbers his final season, pretty much across the board, because the Arizona was just a lot worse in 2024 than they were in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I was nervous about it, but honestly, so my highest drafted receivers are all 3 of them are rookies, and it's Tet McMillan at 24%, Torrey Horton at 24%, and Travis Hunter at 22%. So those are my dudes. I'm really psyched about both landing spots. I mean, Hunter going to the Jags is even better than him going to the Browns, especially with the trade up and, you know, everything that signals. And then Tet McMillan getting 8th overall draft capital is not what I expected. I was hoping for 12 at Dallas, you know. Jacob and I were kind of making similar points about Tet, or was it Jacob? Someone agreed with me about how his ceiling is a bit higher here, but maybe the floor is lower than with Dallas, because you've got the Bryce Young, you know, the question marks around him compared to Dak, obviously. And then you also have an offense that's really going to be designed around him, which could be awesome if he's awesome, but it also could be bad if he's not awesome, because you don't have CeeDee Lamb drawing coverage.
I would push that back a little bit. I actually think the floor concerns would come in if he's not good right away. There are actually other guys on the team who can draw targets. Assume Thielen's not washed. Assume a little bit of growth year 1 to year 2 for Leggett. Assume they don't want to send Coker to 0, and assume Jatavian Sanders is the same guy he was last year. And you've got enough to squint and be like, well, if he's good, but not amazing, there's enough guys there to kind of just siphon to make him a 22% target share guy instead of a 27% target share guy.
Yeah, maybe. It's like the offense is just so much worse if Tet isn't good.
Isn't good for sure.
And on Dallas, if Tet isn't good, the offense is like worse, but it's not like the end of the world. So yeah, I guess I'm just I do think that it's a bit more boom bust than if he'd gone to Dallas. But if you believe in Tet, this is amazing. This is amazing. Like he can, if he hits, he can really, really, really hit now.
I kind of hate myself for getting psyoped and not like I have a fair amount of Tet in the big board, but I could have had way more. You know,
I got psyoped from I was nervous the whole time, but I just was like, I'm not betting against this guy. He looks great to me.
Okay, big board ranking or BBM rankings, week 1, day 1. Who do you have ranked higher, Tet or Hunter?
Tet, but it's fairly close.
It's going to be super close. Yeah.
Yeah, I think T-Mac ends up in the 3-4 turn area, and then I think Hunter. The way I'm going to have it ranked is like T-Mac will be in the early 40s and Hunter will be like in the mid 40s. So it's really not going to be that different. I'll tell you exactly what I have right now. Obviously subject to change and dialing in. This is what I did last night. I had Hunter at 44 and I had T-Mac at 39.
Yeah.
So we'll see where ADP settles and everything, but
I think that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he got the Drake London was pick 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the Drake London Tet comparison. Same dude. They both weighed in at 219. You got the people who've been making that comp, you got your wish. But you do see the bus here, right? Traylon Burks, right? And Quentin Johnson.
Sure.
Anytime you start hearing the power slot, you invoke the name of power slot.
So to circle back on Golden, because we talked about his reception perception and how I was expecting it to be awesome. He wasn't bad there. He wasn't bad. I was hoping we would get, more like something we saw with Travis Hunter. It's like, I know this guy didn't produce. I mean, Hunter did produce, but I was hoping Harmon with Golden would say, I know this guy didn't produce, but my God, the route running is amazing. Everything that people are excited about on film, I'm seeing too. And, we can bet on this guy even without the production. It was more like, it's pretty good. But Tet McMillan was kind of in that same range where Harmon wasn't like, oh my God, this guy's amazing, but it was pretty good. So I don't think I think he'll be fine outside. I don't think we're dealing with power slot stuff. I think he will be, maybe kicking into the slot at times, moving around the formation, but he's going to live as the big X receiver, and I think he'll be fine as that. My kind of like this isn't statistical, but my mental comp for him has been, what if Michael Pittman was good after the catch?
Yeah, I think I think I like that actually quite a bit. All right, biggest surprise of the first round, I think, and I don't even think it's particularly close, was Emeka Egbuka being drafted with pick 19 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have Mike Evans under contract, just signed Chris Godwin to a rather expensive contract extension, got 7 touchdowns in the final 5 games of the season for Jalen McMillan last year. Ohio State's all-time receptions and receiving yards leader. I was a little bit lower on Egbuka just because I was so enamored with Golden's 40, frankly. I've had I've had some hours to think about it. I think it totally makes sense for Tampa Bay. Evans, last year of his deal, maybe they're concerned about Godwin's health. Most importantly, if Jalen McMillan ends up being the successor to Godwin or Evans, that's great. But it's also fine if they're just like, yeah, whatever, you're Jalen McMillan. We're happy to have you as our wide receiver 4, but we don't need to promote you or pay you extra money or anything. They didn't have a super obvious need on either of the trenches. Not that you can't ever add a trenches player, but they didn't have like a super obvious need there. What's your immediate takeaway?
My guess is I had not listened to anything about their rationale I've watched any press conferences, so I don't know. But my guess is that they were just blown away by him as a person and a prospect, and we're like, this guy's going to be a star because of some of the off the field stuff in a good way. Egbuka is, you know, like the football IQ, the work ethic, all of that. We're hearing really, really positive stuff about him. And, his profile is pretty intriguing to me when you look at the sophomore season with Marvin Harrison, where he's playing really, really well. And, in certain metrics, he's extremely impressive in that sophomore season. He's banged up the third year, returns to school, and gets beaten out by Jeremiah Smith, which is concerning. But also, Jeremiah Smith's the number one guy in the country and would have probably been the number one pick in this draft if eligible. So, I'm willing to kind of leave that aside a little bit. But it's like they must be. This doesn't make any sense from like a immediate need perspective. So they must have been like, we can't pass up the opportunity to take this guy who's just such a strong kind of hit rate player. Maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling. Maybe he's mostly going to play in the slot. But this dude is a professional and someone we want added to our organization, and we're not going to mess around. We're just going to add another awesome NFL player. And that's the only way it makes sense to me. But I don't hate that if that's what they did, because Mike Evans turns 32 in August, and Chris Godwin's coming off a torn ACL, and Jalen McMillan flashed some stuff, but was a third round pick and isn't necessarily like a succession plan all on his own. So in like 2 years or even 1 year, we could be thinking about this pick much more positively from a team building perspective. Like if Godwin doesn't look like himself next year, or Evans falls off finally, then all of a sudden this is like a kind of a genius pick.
Evans is just an unrestricted free agent. It doesn't even have to be a fall off. It can just be, Mike, thank you for your service.
Fair enough.
Why don't you go get a paycheck from Buffalo or whatever?
Right.
So 1.19 yards per route run, 13.4% target share, only 58 targets earned for Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, the McMillan hype was always a little much for me. It was really outrageous, and I did take some because look, I like second-year wide receivers, and it's hard for me to full fade it. But
I had 85% of Jalen McMillan in last year's edition of the big board, the 2024.
Beautiful.
Board. Yeah, I loved him as a prospect. I thought I thought he was good. I mean, I thought he was quite good. He did not earn targets. He was like consistently losing snaps to like creative players. Even when Evans was banged up, even when Godwin was banged up, Sterling Shepard was popping up. I mean, I was learning names of Buccaneers wide receivers last year, even while McMillan was ostensibly like McMillan did neither, because Evans and Godwin both got banged up, and neither time did McMillan dominate the targets. When Evans was banged up, he didn't dominate targets. And when Godwin was he had good fantasy games, but it was not a high volume role that he stepped into.
It's a good point. He maxed out at 8 targets, I guess was his max last year.
Yeah, like
but he only had 3 receptions in that
Cade
game.
Otton had a higher volume game
last
year than he ever had.
Yeah, he maxed out at 75 yards and 5 receptions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. Like maybe a big part of this is that McMillan is just not really someone they're that excited about.
Well, it can be Jalen McMillan is a totally fine player who we are happy to have, but we see the end of the road for Evans and Godwin coming. If it's not here yet, it's coming at some point. We like what we have, right? Like we like how our offense works now. And one of the things when you have a very good quarterback, but not a great quarterback, is you got to keep those guys stocked with wide receivers. You see a real dip in passing production when you ask a B+ quarterback to try and hoist up C+ passing weapons, right? It's like something we like are pretty confident about the NFL now.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it does make sense from a long-term team building perspective to bring in Egbuka if they're, you can quibble with like, is he worthy of the 19th overall pick? I think it's fine. I like him, honestly. He ended up being my wide receiver 3 ahead of Golden and Burden. Actually, Burden and then Golden in that order. I think like he was really good as a sophomore at Ohio State with elite teammate competition, and he was also good last year. He did have more receptions than Jeremiah Smith for a lot less yards, but he was kind of the underneath reliable, slot guy. And did what he was, asked to do.
Him
in that
being
offense
the
very
Ohio
well.
State all-time receiving leader is actually a bit of a tell that he's a little bit worse than the other guys.
For sure,
Because it
'cause
means
he had to
he
stay.
stayed.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
means he stayed. Yeah.
Now, you see this on his comp list. Justin Jefferson here, pick 22, pick 19. Justin Jefferson was sort of famously, safe prospect. Maybe not as good or as explosive as Ja'Marr Chase, but really safe. And the way the NFL works now, being the safe guy is kind of good, right?
Being a safe guy is good.
Being the safe guy is kind of good because teams don't use that explosive down the field passing as much. My guess is Egbuka is probably going to be overpriced for a while in fantasy drafts. You know what Egbuka is going to be an awesome pick in? Awesome pick in your home league with your buddies. He's going to be like,
oh my God.
He's going to be buried at like pick 173 in the ESPN default applet or whatever.
That's 100% right. That's 100% right. I don't know. I mean, so I kind of want to bury Egbuka a bit, but like, I'm still kind of optimistic about what his season could look like. Couldn't he break out late and be like, again?
I mean,
like,
dude, he's got all sorts of paths, right? So first path is, Chris Godwin is not healthy. Ankle bothers him all year. Just basically never really returns to the level of target earning that he had before. That's a pretty big one. Second path, it's the black marble season for Mike Evans. And Mike Evans is not healthy. Mike Evans doesn't play well. Mike Evans limps through 11 games, but does not playing in the fantasy football playoffs. Third path, they all stay healthy. They're all good. Baker last season threw for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. So Baker just literally runs back relatively his performance. Call it 4,300 yards and 36 touchdowns. You bake in some regression, and he's a starter from week 4 on and totally consolidates the wide receiver 3 role. Like last season, like let's say we combine the Chris Godwin and Sterling Shepard stats. You get to 110 targets, 82 receptions, 6 touchdowns, and 900 yards or so. That is like a total smash as the third option on the Buccaneers.
Yeah, and I think the stuff that I'm more excited about for his upside is, that like Evans has fallen off or Godwin isn't right, and he's awesome. Like it's clear that because the thing with Egbuka that I do really like is that he doesn't do everything amazing, but what he does well, I think he does really well. I think he's going to be able to earn targets, shallow, intermediate, out of the slot. And now he's in an offense that is very willing to pass the ball, has, maybe not amazing, but pretty good quarterback play. And so it's like he's set up. He's now in an offensive environment that's going to support what he does well. So now the question really comes down to is he worthy of the first round draft capital that he just got? Because if he is, he has a pretty big ceiling from a fantasy football perspective where we give points for receptions, right? Like like he's not going to lift the lid off the defense or whatever, but that doesn't matter, So maybe it matters in the sense that like I don't think he'll ever be a top 5 real life receiver, but when I try to figure out what his rookie season's going to look like, I think there's plenty of upside. It's just it comes down to the target competition. So if one of these guys isn't right, or isn't right for a stretch, misses some time, he can really step up, I think, in this environment. I would be pretty into him if he's any later than like the early 100s. I'm gonna have a bag.
It's gonna differ on where you're drafting. Slappies are gonna like Egbuka. Underdog drafters are gonna like Egbuka. Dynasty drafters are gonna like Egbuka, but like FFPC drafters, I think, will be lighter on him. They'll be higher on Godwin. They'll be higher on Evans. So it'll be a format dependent thing.
Yeah. Well, where do you think you'll be? Where would you be excited to draft him in best ball?
I think wide receiver 40. Like honestly, where he was going. If he doesn't see a huge jump in price, if he kind of stays wide receiver.
Well, he won't see a jump in price.
Egbuka, the people get excited.
No, he'll go down.
If he goes down, if he ends up being wide receiver 52, pick 113, I think that is like an easy click, just based on the contingent stuff.
Yeah. I think right now, and maybe I'll change this, but right now I've got him like wide receiver 52, 104 ish. I'm gonna raise that slightly, but in that range, is that early 100 range, I think he's pretty strong.
Yeah. All right, so that is Matthew Golden, Ted McMillan, Emeka Egbuka. We've covered the first round wide receivers. I mean, I think it was about as good as you could have hoped for. I mean, I wanted Burden to go. The only thing left we have to do, Kerrane, is the tight ends. And I think not
and the running backs.
Well, and the running backs, yeah. So the tight ends, I guess, Jesus, we're running long here. So Loveland, I think, not surprising to anyone who is super plugged in to the internet. I think it'd probably be fairly surprising for most people who are just like, oh, I'm gonna tune in to the draft and just see what's going on, to see the Bears take a tight end with 1,500 career receiving yards, 11 touchdowns. Who played for a team that like actively despised the forward pass to go at pick 10. I do think this was probably the right decision, taking him over Tyler Warren. I think it is going to be a bit of a tough ask for him as a rookie in fantasy, though. Like, it's very crowded room. 2 guys who I think are pretty good at earning targets. A tight end who's the 8th highest paid tight end in the NFL also with him. Where are we at on Colston Loveland?
Yeah, I mean, if you're taking a rookie tight end, you're hoping that they're producing at the end of the season, and it's hard for me not to get excited about a guy producing at the end of the season in a Ben Johnson offense where, like, he's not exactly like Laporta. Laporta in some ways actually more similar to Warren, where like, if you think about their style of receiver, it's like get the ball in his hands on shallower stuff and let them run. That's the Warren Laporta kind of archetype. Loveland's more of almost like a big receiver who can win downfield. But I do think he's similar to Laporta in the sense that there was some questions about his ability to play like inline traditional run blocking stuff, kind of a weaker PFF run blocking grade. Both he and Laporta share that. Laporta hasn't had any issues doing that in a well-designed offense. And some people are quite bullish on Loveland's blocking ability. From that being like a potential red flag for him landing with Ben Johnson, I just don't have any concerns about that now. Like, I think they'll figure out smart ways to use him that maximize what he does well and doesn't create any liabilities for the offense. I think he'll be kind of sufficiently good at blocking, given the play designs and everything there. So I think this is like kind of mega bullish for Loveland, especially long term. I think short term, yeah. I mean, you're not going to see him projected super high week 1. But so what? It's like,
so what?
At the end of the season, this dude might be cooking, and I think more than talented enough to pass Komet, who's coming off a bad year. We were pretty low on Komet all off season, to the point I was getting questions about it, and it's like there's buzz that this team is not into him. Like his own team seems pretty bummed out about how he played last year, and he has a new coaching staff coming in. So I took Komet one time in the big board. I didn't think this would happen, but there was buzz all along that they would take Warren. They were connected to Warren throughout. So yeah, I mean, I think this is great for Loveland. I really do. You're going to need to build with him in best ball in ways that you're not expecting a lot of early season production. But as far as
take him with Zach Ertz. Take him with Zach
Ertz. Take him with Gesicki or Hunter Henry. Like there's plenty of veterans late that you can get. I think he could be a difference maker down the stretch.
So I will say one thing I'm a little bit worried about with someone like Loveland, and I actually am a little bit worried about this with Warren too. Like even let's say Tyler Warren had gone to like a nutted spot. Let's say Tyler Warren got drafted by the Chiefs and Travis Kelce actually retired. He was like, Tyler Warren's so good, I don't even want to play with him, right? Something I'm a little bit concerned about with both of them is the lack of high level execution they had to do because they played in the Big Ten. Just like we talk about this with quarterbacks, like reps. Like JJ McCarthy had fewer attempts than Caleb Williams had passes in college. And that's something that I think is something we were legit worried about. I am a little worried that like it might be until like October that Loveland like even feels grounded as an NFL football player, which is fine. That's not burying him, but I wonder if it's a relatively slow burn for him. Like if Loveland gets meaningfully more expensive in Best Ball Mania than he was in the big board, like if he goes ahead of David Njoku, I'm just out. I can't. I don't think I can do it.
We'll have him. I think we'll have him ahead of David Njoku.
Man,
you're talking about Ben Johnson's tight end, who is primarily a receiving prospect, who just went 10th overall, or I don't know who's quarterback. Who's playing quarterback for David Njoku. Like it's a second round guy or worse, or Joe Flacco. It's not Jameis anymore. I think the upside is on Loveland's side.
Well, what if it's okay? What if I told you it was Kirk Cousins is the Browns quarterback?
I still want Loveland. Kirk Cousins looked like crap last year.
Okay, what if it's Tyler Shuck?
Then I definitely want Loveland.
Yeah,
you're out of outs. It's got to be Shedeur, and he's got a surprise.
I think you can tell I'm 32 years old. Where I'm like, you know what? The rookie who just went 10th overall versus David Njoku, who's as old as I am. I'm out. I'm out on the rookie, and I want the boring value.
The best ball market is doing a better job of pricing in upside, and so with Njoku, you're paying for tight end. Tight end hits my lineup. That's what you pay for with Njoku. Tight end who hits my lineup. With Loveland, you pay for tight end spike week at the end of the season. And what can I get later? Now maybe I can get I think Harold Fannin is a smash. So maybe I can get tight end spike week, but we'll see where he ends up going and how much he rises. Or maybe he goes away later than I'm hoping, and I'm totally wrong. That spike weeks exist with him. But I know I can find tight end who hits my lineup later. I can find that. Like Jake Ferguson. There's actually a bunch of guys who go 50 picks after Njoku that I can take that'll help have tight end points hit my lineup. What I can't find as easily is a dude who could be like, look, Rome did not have an impressive rookie season. Would it be crazy for the end of the season, Loveland to be looking like the clear number 2 for the Bears?
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna say that is way less likely than Rome like really improves and is like a total.
I don't think
Not
Loveland should go ahead of Rome or anything.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy, but I'm not viewing that as a scenario. Like,
I think it's in play.
yes,
I think it's in play.
The best ball market does a better job of pricing an upside, but also sometimes the best ball market only sees the upside. Do you know what like Ben Sinnott was drafted 10 to 1.
That's a good example of that, yeah.
Than Zach Ertz last year, right? And what are you gonna do with Kmet? So that's really what you have to ask is this I mean, dare say, I mean, Liam's not even here to defend him, but dare say I invoke a Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox situation with Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland. I don't want to put that on Colston Loveland, but I think it's something that could happen.
Well, Dalton Kincaid was not a bad pick in his rookie season. He was a bad pick in his second season.
I actually don't remember what Dalton Kincaid's rookie ADP was. Dalton Kincaid,
he went around this. He went a little after this, actually.
He just didn't score.
I'm saying I would take Loveland.
He just didn't score any touchdowns.
He scored 2 touchdowns, but he caught 73 balls for 673 yards. And then the following year we took him in the 5th round. So he was not a bust in this range. You would have been. Now the reason we didn't feel great about it is because Laporta was free.
Yes.
Laporta you get in the 18th round, and that he was the right answer at rookie tight end. So if he does exactly what Dalton Kincaid does, you're not like stoked, but even Dalton Kincaid I think was fine at this price. At the time I wasn't into it because I had a big stand on Laporta, but I'm kind of coming around to the idea that like Dalton Kincaid was totally fine there at that time, and I think taking some of these guys with the late season upside, like we're flipping the build. We're like, you're making me pay early for the late season upside, and then I can get cheaper production later. Okay, that's fine. Like I still need a balance of early and late season production. If I have to pay higher prices for the late season stuff than I used to, but the early season stuff comes down in price, then I can still build coherent teams.
I'm willing to move him up to tight end 12, I think. Well, actually, I guess the tight end 11, because as we are about to get to, there sadly is someone who somehow was a first-round pick in the NFL draft and absolutely nuked their fantasy football stock. Tyler Warren. We hardly knew ye. Dude.
Yeah, this is bad.
What I just like, okay.
I feel like I've been pretty optimistic on this pod, but this is bad.
Give me your most optimistic year 1 bull case for Tyler Warren as a fantasy football entity.
Let me think.
But you're close, right. Third eye open.
I'm gonna truly need the third eye.
Thing you
Let me
can
massage the third eye here. Let's see if I can. It's not opening, Davis. It's not. I can't get it to open. I think. All right. First of all, Daniel Jones is playing. Daniel Jones is playing most of the season.
Okay, that is not where I would go. But anyways, continue.
I think it has to go there because we need improved passing volume from what we can realistically expect from Anthony Richardson, and we also need improved underneath accuracy. Short area accuracy is what we need with Tyler Warren. He's the guy you actually design touch. Jacob was talking about how this is a team that should actually be designing more screens to their tight end and stuff, given the way their weapons are set up, and they're going to be in a lot of 11 personnel. So Warren allows them to run out of that, but then also as a receiving weapon on play action stuff. So you have Warren getting design touches. Daniel Jones is actually able to execute those, at a better rate than Anthony Richardson. And he just scores a bunch of touchdowns. He just scores a bunch of touchdowns.
Could
He
score
runs
like 12
for a couple.
touchdowns, actually.
He throws for one. And yeah, the play action stuff. He just scores a bunch of touchdowns. He doesn't have that many receptions because he's competing for targets with Pittman and Downs. But yeah, the offense is better. It kind of works. It's not perfect, but it works with Jones to enough of an extent where he's able to get in the end zone like 10 times. And that's how he hits.
All right, let me give you mine, which is actually more bullish than what you just said.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson actually is working his ass off.
Oh, no.
He's locked in. He's dialed in. He shows up and people are like, wow, there's a new energy and confidence and belief in the building. And
I'm imagining this as a graphic novel right now.
You should be. Yeah.
like Anthony, it's like him putting up like
yes. Just imagine that. And
throwing deep.
It's like Anthony Richardson hits a 12-yard crosser to Michael Pittman Jr. in training camp, and that's his happy learn to putt moment. Like people are like, "Oh my god, he just delivered a middle of the field throw." That's the
comp. Why did we not talk about this as the comp before?
Yeah. Except it's so funny. It is actually. You're right because Anthony Richardson can already do all the hard stuff about being a quarterback. He can already he avoids sacks. It's impossible to tackle him. He can hit 70-yard frozen rope throws. he could throw the football out of the stadium from his knees, but he can't just hit a running back screen. He can't putt. He can't putt.
And he needs to get his shit together off the field.
And it's basically like the vibes are all good in the building. Sadly, part of his upside does have to be this like back injury for Michael Pittman Jr. is like real. Like Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs and A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce cannot all have good seasons because there just will not be the passes.
There's not, yeah.
So one of those guys has to get hurt. And also, we do.
This is thinner than mine. This is definitely thinner.
We also
you already told me this fairy tale about Anthony Richardson, Happy Gilmore, and that's not enough.
All right, let's play a game. How many tight ends can you name that are on the Colts roster right now?
All right, Will Mallory, Tyler Granson,
got it. Kylan Granson gone.
Kylan Granson.
Gone.
Mo Alley Cox.
Correct.
Alberto.
Got it.
I think I might be tapped out because they don't have Jelani Woods anymore, right?
They do. Jelani Woods, Sean McKeon,
and
Drew Ogletree are also all on the It's the only time I've ever gone to a depth chart site and seen two lines listed for tight end. They have two. They have to have double lines for tight end on our lads.
This is going to be like the Hunger Games in training camp.
Let's just be real. Two of those like Mo Alley Cox can't be on the team.
Like one of these guys is going to survive this. There's no way.
I know, but like it can't be. I don't know, man. It's like. What would Tyler Warren's price have to be in Best Ball Mania to get you to have more than 4%?
Like 160.
I don't know if he can go that low.
I think we're gonna have him in the 140s. That's where I was looking at last night.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you're like, this dude was really good, and they just drafted him 14th overall, and they might design, a bunch of the offensive stuff around him. So, especially as the season comes to a close, he might be emerging as a weapon. So there is some hope, but he's got to fall a lot. He was at 102 to close the big board. He needs to fall 40 picks before I'm really interested at all.
Yeah, not a guy to take on day one of the contest.
No,
right?
Not a guy to take on day one. But he was overpriced. I mean, look, in another world, Colston Loveland, who I have a bunch of, I'm at 13% Loveland. In another world, he's the pick here, and I'm eating it. But I did think that Warren going to the Colts was always pretty likely. They preferred him to Loveland, was the reports, and so his ADP was always pretty optimistic with this landmine lurking. I was hoping Dallas would take him, and then I would look bad for not really having drafted him. But he'll fall a lot.
Yeah. All right. I guess we buried the lead to some degree.
We kind of did.
But we should go to one Mr. Ashton Jeanty. He does in fact go to the Raiders at pick 6. And his comps are unbelievable. I mean, they're all the greatest running back prospects. So it's officially confirmed. Ashton Jeanty is where he, we said he was going to go the entire time. What is the best ball market going to do with Ashton Jeanty? How high is he going to go? What is the is he going to go after or go before all of CD, Puka, Nico, BTJ? Is he going to go after CD but ahead of Puka? Where do you think he settles?
Where I slotted him in is I think where he might end up going, and I put him at 7. So that's after CD and ahead of Puka, right? Because CD comes out of the first round without a wide receiver, so he's kind of set up for alpha stuff. Puka never dropped really with the Adams signing, but if you look at ADP, it's like, from Gibbs, Jefferson's at 3.9 in the final big board ADP, which is really close to Bijan, just ahead of him at 3.4. Then there's a little gap to Gibbs, and then there's a gap. He's at 4.8. Then there's a bigger gap to CD at 6. You could see Jeanty maybe slotting between those two guys, but then from CD to Puka, it's 6 down to 7.9.
Yep.
Clearly, that's a tier break where the market is. No one's really taking Puka over CD Lamb. Like everyone just takes CD Lamb, and they
were for a while.
Yeah. But maybe that's what the Adams signing did. I can't remember.
It was the Adams signing.
Okay, that's I think Jeanty. I think Puka's sort of vulnerable in a sense to a riser like Jeanty coming up, and I mean, he's an awesome pick at 7. Now there was we both liked him pre-draft. I ended up at 12%. Obviously, I wish I had more now, but he was a pretty big priority for me at that turn. Like anytime he's available, in the late first, early second, I was into it. But I didn't prioritize him over those wide receivers like Malik Neighbors and Amon-Ra and Brian Thomas. I was trying to get him paired with one of those wide receivers primarily because, for one, I didn't think the Jags would trade up for Travis Hunter, and two, I wasn't 100% sure that Jeanty would land somewhere awesome. Right? He could have. There were potential. If he goes to the Jaguars, I don't think he would rise to 7. I think he'd probably be. He might fall slightly. So I was trying not to get like crazy high on Jeanty, but I do think he rises now with this landing spot locked in, and I would be very comfortable taking him after CeeDee Lamb's off the board.
100%. I can see a legitimate argument to take him ahead of Bijan. I can see a legitimate argument to take him ahead of Gibbs. Do you know the other running backs under contract for the Los Angeles Raiders right now? Las Vegas Raiders.
Raheem Mostert. Amir Abdullah.
I believe Amir Abdullah is gone. Amir Abdullah is an unrestricted free agent.
Zamir White. Sincere McCormick.
Friend of the show, Dylan Laube.
Yeah. And anyone else? That's it.
I mean, they have Isaiah Spillers on a futures reserve contract and Chris Collier, who is like not even playable in preseason NFL DFS. I think we could see a Zeke level workload from him. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is the oldest head coach in the NFL. Pete Carroll is, I believe, he's 73 years old. In fact, he's going to turn 74 the opening week of the season. I'm just going to keep it real, man. Pete Carroll's not playing for the future. Pete Carroll is playing for right now. Chip Kelly is basically a hired gun here. Chip Kelly does not care about Ashton Jeanty's second contract. No one in the building actually cares about his second. Gino's 35. Gino don't care about his. Everyone in this building wants to win 9 games. Their Super Bowl will be finishing ahead of the Denver Broncos in the division. If they're able to beat the Broncos, that'll be like they'll hang a banner for that. They want to win 9 games so bad. So Zeke as a rookie, 322 rushes, 39 targets. I think you scale down the rushes to Jeanty probably like 280, but you scale up the targets. You probably give him 65 targets or something like that on that clear third on the depth chart behind Myers and Bowers. Chip Kelly throws to running backs a lot. Also, Chip offenses just run so many plays.
I might say more like 50 targets.
Yeah. And with, I think, a clear stranglehold on the high value touches. I mean, how many high value touches will Raheem Mostert get, in this, 7?
I think Raheem Mostert will like inexplicably snipe like 3 touchdowns.
For sure, there will be a game early on, first month of the season, where you're like, I cannot believe I spent a first round pick on Ashton Jeanty. Raheem Mostert looks great. That's happening.
There's going to be a DFS week where we have Jeanty as like an incredible leverage play or something, and he gets tackled at the 1, and Mostert comes in and takes the touchdown. I'm just waiting for that.
Or somehow there'll be a fullback who we don't know who scores or whatever.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't think we should be drafting Jeanty over Bijan and Gibbs, given that so Bijan was just as good of a prospect as Jeanty, and frankly, so was Gibbs. Maybe not, maybe a couple
no, I'm pushing back on that.
You're right. But part of the stuff with Gibbs that wouldn't have made him as good of a prospect is things we no longer care about, like weight. He's proven he can do it. So these guys were awesome prospects. They're young, and they're in the second, third, fourth years of their career. So they can actually, they've earned more from their coaching. They're further along the progression towards being like true superstars. I think it just comes down to we've seen only one legendary season from a rookie running back, and it was Saquon Barkley. Jeanty's the type of guy that you would expect to be able to do it because he's a Barkley level prospect.
Zeke with 16 touchdowns and 2,000 yards was not a legendary season.
No, Zeke never hit one. Zeke was
I think in this economy, I'm taking that.
We would take it. We would certainly take it. I'm not saying you turn your nose up at it, but I don't think we should take him over Bijan Robinson, who's in a really strong situation where the whole offense could be built around him this year, or Gibbs, who we've seen has just an unbelievable ceiling when they actually feed him. So, yeah, that's where I just draw the line. But I guess I wouldn't be shocked if I find myself just clicking him at 6 behind those guys and ahead of CeeDee Lamb. I'm more comfortable if he goes at 7. I'm very comfortable. My hope is obviously that he's more like 8 or 9, and I get a bag at 7, and I go overweight on him.
I think that'll happen. Our friends over at EstablishTheRun.com will be a little bit more gentle. They'll be a little bit less excitable than we will, I would think, and they're obviously the big market drivers. So I think that matters. Now, I think the final guy that we're going to be talking about here, Omarion Hampton. I think that Hampton is probably going to be the guy that I actually end up being higher on the market because there is going to be residual Najee people.
I've been shocked. Some of the reaction last night was like, "Oh, this is a bummer." But this is not a bummer at all. This is awesome.
Yeah. No, it's actually crazy that your first response to a first round running back being going is would have been nice, but he's got to contend with Najee Harris now.
He's like, if you just take away Najee for a second and think about, he goes to Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman. They're gonna run the ball. They actually had a productive running game last year with J.K. Dobbins, who is currently unsigned, and Gus Edwards. They still got a productive running game out of that. They're going to have a productive running game. They just took this guy in the first round. He's going to be the lead running back. At some point this season, he will be their guy. That is super bullish. And then you have Justin Herbert. This is an offense that we believe in. They build through the trenches. This is a team that's going to block well. So that is mega bullish. For him to be a Charger is awesome. It's not quite as awesome as him going to the Broncos, probably, as far as the offensive line being better there. But honestly, it's close because Herbert's a lot better than Nix, I think. And, as far as the scheme and stuff, the run game, like the pure run game, you might take the Chargers because it's not like Hampton's a Kamara. He's a Zeke. You load him up with touches and, he pounds the rock and he's able to be efficient and add some as a receiver. But like, he's a workhorse running back in the mold of a Zeke. And so I think a very nice fit here. And then, you want to get to Najee. Najee has not been good. He was a former first round pick who was a straight up bust, right? Not like a, oh my God, we can't let this guy see the field bust, but was not, his fifth round option was not picked up. And the team that drafted him the first round lets him walk. And then after that, he signs a 1 year, $5.25 million deal. Guess what? To be a backup. That's what Najee Harris's career has been, is that
Najee Harris
was forced to split
even
with a UDFA. Yeah. Wasn't re-signed by the team, and now he's going to be a backup.
He's not even making more meaningfully money than like Zach Moss or Elijah Mitchell or anything. Like $9 million with a lot of it in incentives is running back 2 money. Maybe like a good running back 2. But these are historical Greg Roman team ranks. First, second, third, seventh, ninth, and 11th. So he's never been outside the top 11 in the NFL in rushing attempts. He's been top 5 in rushing yards all seasons but 2. Called plays for a decade, right? Top 5 in rushing. Actually, weirdly, ran bad with the 2011 49ers in 2022. Those must have been good Lamar seasons or something. No, 2022 was the year Lamar got hurt. In 2014, San Francisco.
Oh yeah, you're right. That was the Snoop Huntley year, I think.
That was the Snoop Huntley year. So basically, I think worst case for Omarion Hampton, 211 rushes, 1,100 scrimmage yards, and 7 touchdowns or something, with like mega ceiling.
Yeah, I think the worst case for him looks something like he comes into training camp and they're just like, they're disappointed by where he's at. I thought you'd be further along in terms of the playbook and, hitting your marks and us being able to lean on you and trust you in all these situations. And Najee is just out there doing everything you expect. He's a veteran. He knows what to do. And there's like, dude, we're going to play the guy who's not going to get our quarterback blown up and not going to like miss the hole. And, and so Najee comes out and is just like the starting running back to begin the season, and that remains the case for longer than we would like, and it's pretty frustrating. But the part that I'm just very confident about, given how good of a prospect Hampton was, he's not an amazing prospect, he's a good prospect, drafted in the first round, and Najee has just a long resume now of not being good. Is that at a certain point they're going to turn it over to the rookie. He could disappoint us by just like taking longer than we were hoping to take this job. But I really think he's taking this job down the stretch. It might be more like DeAndre Swift, I think, kind of came on down the stretch in his rookie season, didn't take it immediately. He ends up kind of being seen as a bust long term. But did he take it from Kerryon Johnson? Yeah, I think it could be more like that, where Najee actually holds this job longer than we would prefer. But Hampton as an end of the season hammer, I'm very confident in. And then obviously do have the upside that it's just his job all year. Like he comes in and does hit his marks in training camp and is basically like the 1A or in a 50-50 split with Najee to begin, and then quickly it becomes a 1A, and then by the end of the season, Najee's his backup.
That's I suppose, like, yeah, that is totally possible that he's the 1B to start the year. It's certainly more likely that we are frustrated the first month of the season with Hampton's workload than we are with like Jeanty. There will be some second round running back. There will be some second round running back, third round running back who the first month of the season is outperforming Hampton probably, because Harbaugh and Roman are old school. They're stubborn. They probably made like some kind of promise or assurance to Najee when they signed him. But I don't know. They're also, it's kind of the same logic I had last year when people were like, oh, got to smash the button on Gus Edwards or whatever because Harbaugh and Roman are just going to run the ball. And I'm like, well, actually, they just like to win games. Harbaugh likes to win games.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we actually, after their bye week, we saw the Chargers be a positive PROE team. You would have never in a million years thought the Harbaugh-Roman Chargers would have been positive PROE, but they watched what the Chargers had, and they were like, you know who's pretty good? Justin Herbert. That guy's pretty good. Yeah.
Cam Akers is on this list and is another example of kind of the like a bear case for the early season, but one where I'd still be excited about what he could do down the stretch, where he had 14 carries in week 1 for 39 yards. Then he goes 3 carries for 13, 9 for 61, 0 for 0. In a loss to the 49ers, 9 for 35, 10 for 38, 5 for 15. Then against the 49ers again, he goes 9 for 84 and a touchdown. Then the following week, 21 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. Then 29 carries for 171 yards. Then 15 for 63, 21 for 34. But he did catch 4 balls for 52 yards in that game. And then in the playoffs, they ride him to victory over the Seahawks, yes. 28 for 131 and 1. And then against the Packers in a loss, that he goes 18 for 90 and 1. So he's the dude. It just takes until late in the season. I think Hampton's a better prospect than Akers was. I forget who Akers was even competing with then.
Darrell Henderson.
Maybe was it Darrell Henderson? Okay, so Najee's probably better than Henderson. so maybe it's
Henderson was a pretty sick prospect, actually.
He was, but not a very sick actual running back. Yeah, so that something like that really wouldn't be shocking to me, and obviously it'd be pretty frustrating as a 4th round pick. But I do think that Hampton's one of the better bets for. He's going to be one of the better bets for late season production in like the 4th round, if that's where he stays. So I'll still happily draft him there. Broncos would have been the best case scenario, obviously. That's a spot where we have no concerns about the early season. He'd just be the dude. But I think there's still a good chance he is the dude to begin the year. And even if he's not, it's Najee Harris, guys. He's going to pass him. Najee Harris, like literally, he's getting paid $5.25 million. Zach Moss was signed for 2 years, $8 million. It really is similar.
Yeah. It's very similar. I don't. Can we? What is the last example of a first round running back getting less burn than we wanted is actually Bijan. But outside of that, first round running backs in general, most NFL teams are smart enough to realize that the clock starts ticking on that expiration button immediately. So you shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth with the first round running back.
Sure, and
I guess Gibbs. In a clear timeshare. Now, the thing is though, is Hampton is not a Lightning. Like if they view Najee as the Thunder, it's Thunder and Thunder. It's not a Thunder and Lightning. So it's like it's weird in the sense that they're not even complementary players, really. They're just Najee is the Charmander. Hampton is the Charizard of the same guy.
That's where it gets really tough for Najee, is that he has to be a better version of a player he's like very unlikely to be better than. It's really up to Hampton to know the playbook, do all the right stuff, pick up pass blocks, and it wouldn't shock me if Najee had like a third down role for a lot of the year, and maybe Hampton's kind of more in like that Mixon style role where he, for the Bengals, where he doesn't always play third downs or doesn't play many third downs. He's kind of more of a 2-down guy. That would be like another way where you're disappointed in Hampton, where it's like, well, he's a 2-down running back, and I could have taken Chuba Hubbard, who started all season, instead of I got Chuba Hubbard down the stretch when I could have had Chuba Hubbard the whole time for a round cheaper in price. So it's not that he's like a locked in smash or anything. No one is, but I don't know. I still think if he doesn't move up from here, I'm going to be very happy to take him in the 4th still. I mean, you compare him to Bijan and Gibbs, both those guys would have been a smash where Hampton's currently going, because Gibbs was a smash and he went higher. He was going in the 3-4 turn by the end, I think. And he was one of the guys you really wanted in best ball tournaments that season as a rookie. And then Bijan had 14.7 PPR points per game. If he was going in the 4th round,
it was just insanely annoying. The Bijan thing was
because he was
insanely
expensive.
Annoying because it was Arthur Smith, and because Algier was just the annoying type of good.
Right.
Yeah. It was like related to the pit stuff. I mean, it truly was just like so annoying. The Bijan Robinson experience, just like aesthetically and viscerally, it was just so unfun. And
because we had overpaid for it as well.
We had overpaid for it. So Dynasty, I mean, I think he's probably the one. Well, Ward or Hampton.
Hampton, I think.
I'm gonna have a tough time with that. Right now, my sense is that he should be the 1-5, but I could hear an argument for the 1-4. I'd hear it. Best Ball Mania.
I think it's Hampton.
But Best Ball Mania. I'm gonna move him ahead of James Cook and Chase Brown, and probably Breece Hall as well. But need to think about that.
Yeah. Let me see. He kind of stayed similar, because I think in some ways the Broncos was a big enough part of like his range where yeah. Breece Hall's tricky because I've been taking Breece Hall ahead. I was taking Breece Hall ahead of Hampton before this trade stuff. I don't know what's going on there. He's so much better than their other options, but whatever. Maybe I'm just missing something. But I would still have Breece ahead of him, I think. And then I had him ahead of Chase Brown to begin with, although if Brown, I mean, we'll see tonight. That's the answer for Brown, what they do on day 2.
They're not, they cannot take someone day 2.
Why not?
There's just no chance. The Bengals roster is so bad, Pat. It's so bad. If they do it, look, famous last words, and you guys can come back in the comments and tell me get owned. But I'd be stunned. I would be
okay.
I would be stunned. Legendary upside, man. Sidekick. Are we doing a sale or a promotion or anything for the start of Best Ball Mania?
We still have the sale that was going. I think it's not going to last too much longer, but if you want to do monthly, it's still $99 a month, which works out, basically the same as the yearly price for the rest of the summer. But then the yearly price gets you playoff best ball, and then it's a calendar year, so to get you all of the pre-draft stuff for next year as well. I was doing a bunch of multi-tabling to try to close out the DraftKings drafts, and I know Sack was over trying to squeeze out some overlay in the little board and stuff. So if you're trying to get volume in, it's just really, really helpful to have those dynamic rankings there for you. We're working on some improvements, which we'll be talking about more in the coming weeks. But the goal is to have it ready to go on Monday when we're expecting Best Ball Mania to drop.
All right, beautiful. Everyone, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Going to be doing obviously a bunch of best ball streams here. pretty much every day for the foreseeable future. So lock in for that later.
It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King summer.